City Skylines gives us a lot of public transport options, and we've gone over most of the short distance, medium distance, and long distance forms in previous videos. However, today I want to give some love to the probably most underused systems that are way cooler than most people think. Let's start with the visually very impressive but rarely used option Blimps, which were added in the Mass Transit DLC. Blimps carry 35 passengers, which puts them somewhere between a bus and a tram in terms of capacity. I mean, this is not amazing, but it's not terrible either. Where they really stand out is in their flexibility and aesthetics. To set them up, you simply place a blimp depot and stops, and then manually draw the flight paths to these stops. Don't forget to connect the depot with a stop. One surprisingly nice bonus is that Blimps can display in-game advertisements, or if you enable the Educational Blimps policy, they will give a small education boost to nearby areas. It's a tiny detail, but it makes them feel more part of a city instead of just being decorative. In terms of the actual use, Blimps can shine when you want to create tourist sightseeing routes or when your city has awkward geography like rivers, highways, or the industry zones you'd rather fly over than build through. They're not the most efficient transport system, but they're one of the few that can be both functional and cinematic at the same time. Let's talk about helicopters next. Helicopters were introduced with the Sunset Harbor DLC, and they're basically high-speed, low-capacity version of Blimps. Each helicopter carries only 20 passengers, which is not a lot. So if you're looking purely at efficiency, they're honestly not that great. But what they lack in capacity, they make up for in speed. Helicopters are incredibly fast, and because they travel directly through the air, they of course also completely ignore traffic and terrain. Like Blimps, they require a depot and manually drawn routes with stops. However, helicopters produce less noise pollution than you might expect, and their stops take up very little space, making them easier to squeeze into dense areas. I feel like they are best used in long-distance connections across the city, islands, or coastal maps, or again for tourism, where realism and spectacle matter more than raw efficiency. In short, helicopters are terrible mass transit, but fantastic premium transit. Now let's talk about something that's actually very efficient: ferries. Also part of the Mass Transit DLC, the base camp ferry carries 80 passengers, which is significantly more than Blimps or helicopters. That already makes them far more viable for real transportation, not just aesthetics. The catch is obvious: you need a body of water. Rivers, coastlines, or island maps are where ferries really come to shine. If your map is mostly land, they're basically useless, but on water-heavy maps, they can replace entire road corridors. To use them, you place a ferry depot, then draw water routes from stop to stop. Again, don't forget to connect the depot with a stop. Ferries are especially powerful when you want to connect islands without building expensive infrastructure. They're one of those systems that can either be completely irrelevant or absolutely essential, depending entirely on which map you pick. Cable cars are probably the most misunderstood transport type in the game. Also introduced in Mass Transit, cable cars carry only 30 passengers, but they run very often, allowing a constant stream of passengers to be transported. Steep hills, mountains, or rivers are things that would normally require tunnels or massive bridges, but these obstacles are no problem for cable cars. Unlike most other transport systems, cable cars are refreshingly simple. You place the stations, connect them, and that's it. No routes and no lines. That makes them perfect as connectors between other transport hubs, for example, from a train station in a valley up to a residential district on a hill without destroying half of your terrain with roads. They're meant to solve very specific geographic problems, and as an added bonus, they're incredibly satisfying to watch. And finally, we have the, in my opinion at least, most useless form of public transport: taxis. Taxis were added with After Dark DLC, and they work very differently from other systems. You don't draw routes at all, you simply place a taxi depot and vehicles will spawn automatically and start picking up passengers across the city. The downside here is that taxis can be surprisingly disruptive. When they stop to pick up or drop off passengers, they briefly block the lane, which can cause traffic issues in already busy areas. And honestly, I'll admit something here. Most of the time, I just build a taxi depot only to unlock the taxi stands because they look so cool as bus shelters. They're not something you plan your entire transit network around, but they add a nice layer of realism. So, while metros, buses, and trains will always be the backbone of most cities, these more niche transport options can solve very specific problems or just make your city feel more alive. Whether it's ferries connecting islands, cable cars climbing impossible hills, or blimps lazily floating over your skyline, these systems add both function and personality to your system. If you've been ignoring these transport types like I did for way too long, maybe this is your sign to finally give them a try in your next city. And if you found some weird or genius ways to use them, I'd genuinely love to hear about it in the comments. And before we end things off, I want to give a quick but huge shout outs to all my YouTube members. We have Serhi the Guy, Matty Valdez 12, 7Rave P3J, John Penner, J to the Jin, CW Jamie Bross, Puletao, V1 Rotate V2, Concierge Hades, Chris Cozard, Afred5, Chris Brown, Rod Botardo, Razor Basic, Kitty Claude, Blitzer, Mark T, Daniel Chem, OG Eastbull, Amanda Please, Cyborg, Slippy Get Back Here, Mystic Wolf, Manuel Maita, Malaki Stoltz, Meme Theme, C. Weiler, User M, Rizuri, Q-Word, It's Leah K, Tim Seguchu, Martine, Sia Humbalip, Texas T. Thank you so much for that support. I really appreciate it. And now, if you want to check out what the absolute best form of public transportation is in city skylines, highly recommend you check out this video right over here. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and please stay safe out there. Bye-bye now.